Hey everyone, before we begin today's video, I just want to let you guys know that this video style is different. It's going to be very minimal editing style, just kind of going to be pictures, and I'm going to have the text displaying what topic we are talking about over the pictures so you guys can skip to what topics you want to hear about. But this video is basically just going to be a little bit of a mini podcast of my buddy and I discussing Shinjuku Showdown so far. So minimal editing style here, and What If Episode 3 will be out on Monday. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this little mini video I decided to make, and like, comment, and subscribe for more. Enjoy. Hello everyone, welcome back to another brand new video, and today's video is just going to be a pretty casual one. I'm here with Lucas.
What's up?
And today we're just going to be talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, Shinjuku Showdown, the maybe final arc of Jujutsu Kaisen's happening right now. And yeah, and we're I would say we're around halfway through, or maybe farther. I don't know. We don't know what Gege's cooking, but we're here to just talk about our thoughts and some topics surrounding the current state of JJK at the moment. So
let's kick it off with our basic thoughts on the Shinjuku Showdown. GOJO versus Sukuna.
Yeah, kicks off the arc. Probably top 3 fight of the entire franchise.
The most anticipated fight of the series.
We've literally been setting up GOJO versus Sukuna since Chapter 1, Episode 1, whatever, and we finally got it, and GOJO did in fact not win. He said, nah, I'd win, and he did not. Kicking things off with Sukuna versus GOJO was the correct decision, and it worked. I mean, it was an awesome fight.
It was a very good fight, but I think there are problems with it that people don't really talk about. The fucking wording of shit. And the long-winded explanations, the constant cutting to the peanut gallery.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for a, like, chapter by chapter, like with introducing the new techniques, but when this gets animated, it's going to be interesting to how they do it, because if they keep cutting back and cutting back and cutting back to the people watching, it's probably not going to flow as well as it did. So that's going to be...
I actually think it'll be better animated than it is.
Yeah, if they can find the workaround for that, it can definitely be a lot better. There's a lot of stuff in Shinjuku Showdown that is going to be very interesting animated. Because the flow of Shinjuku Showdown, I'd say it's probably the most disjointed flow of an arc so far. It's very strange. And that's probably due to the Sukuna cycle that we'll talk more about later.
I agree. It seemed like there wasn't really a concrete plan, despite there probably being a concrete plan. Like, it just seems like things are happening, but nothing is actually getting done. There's no progress being made.
Yeah, I'd say that this arc has definitely been entertaining, because it's just fights. But is the arc, like, good as a whole? We're going to have to wait and let it cook some more, because... the pacing is strange.
I will say regarding the Shinjuku Showdown, Gojo's actual ending for his character is, I think, really good. And him dying through being connected to the world, despite everything previously suggesting that he thought he was above it, is actually a poetic way of ending things. And I think anybody who wants Gojo to come back is kind of foregoing good writing for what they actually want.
Yeah, I think GOJO served his purpose in the story. He does not need to return. After Sukuna versus GOJO, the rest of this entire arc has just been Sukuna versus everyone else.
It's really tiring to read this on a chapter-by-chapter basis, waiting week after week. When someone gets to do something cool for a chapter, and then just gets instantly fucked the minute the second chapter happens. Like, nothing about any of these chapters is bad. Kusakabe's got some cool moments. Miguel, even Kashimo, Uraume had some sick moments. Like, every individual fight isn't... Maki, maybe not, but every individual character has had some, like, good fights with Sukuna and good character moments, but chapter by chapter, it gets tiring when it feels like there's nothing really changing at all. This entire time he's been trying to, like, weaken Sukuna, but it feels like he's never actually weakened, and he always has something else up his sleeve.
The thing with the Sukuna cycle, I think we've finally hit the end of it seems, with this Yuji fight. because for a moment there it was really really bad because it went Sukuna Kashimo, then Sukuna Higuruma, then Sukuna Yuta, then Sukuna Maki, then Sukuna Yuji and friends, then Sukuna Kusakabe, then Sukuna, and it's like holy shit, can we please just move on? And I think we finally hit that. This Yuji fight seems like it's definitely taken more than 2 chapters at this point, so it seems like we're finally moving forward. This is going to be a big scale fight, and we're finally going to advance a bit. But for a couple chapters there, it was pretty rough. Like Miguel and LaRue get their own chapter, Kusakabe gets his own chapter, Yuji and friends get their own chapter, Maki gets their own chapter, Yuta had a couple, but it's just on a week by week basis, the pacing of this is rough. It's definitely going to be better in the anime when these fights are only like going to be like 5 minutes probably. And like the Kusakabe, Miguel, and Maki fights are all probably going to be in like 1 episode.
I think my favorite fights so far, after of course GOJO v Sukuna, were Yuji and Yuta versus Sukuna, and I guess now this Yuji v Sukuna, it's kind of like 1v1, because it actually feels like progress is being made in these fights, rather than Maki, who's Black Flash and fucked.
Twice.
Higuruma, who's said to be Higuruma's said to be like a prodigy, but then doesn't actually do anything of real note.
It is a fine formula, but when it is happening like 5 times in a row, it's like chapter starts with a flashback. We hype up Kusakabe, we hype up Miguel, we hype up person A. They fight Sukuna, they get a feat against Sukuna, they get rolled, next person enters. And it's kind of like that's just been the formula of everyone after Kashimo. This most recent chapter, I'd say the last 3, we've been cooking. And
I agree.
Sukuna versus Yuji has been awesome, and Maki, Choso, and Shiesty are also there. And we got a crazy domain expansion, and we are recording this after chapter 258. 259 leaks have not happened yet, but apparently the leaks are getting leaked early, so if the leaks come out tomorrow when I post this, then maybe these takes will age well. But we are recording this before 259 leaks, so we do not know what has happened after Sukuna pops Fuga. So let's talk about what we think is going to happen with that.
It's interesting, Fuga, because we haven't seen him used before besides on JoGo. And the people on the battlefield are all people that shouldn't really die narratively. Obviously, you can't kill Yuji.
Right.
The final fight has to be Yuji and probably Megumi against Sukuna. Maki, you can't go off your only good female character, and there's nothing you really get from her death at this point. Her death wouldn't bring anything besides just more rage bait.
Yeah.
Ino could potentially die, but to pop Fuga just to kill Ino feels a bit unsatisfying.
Yeah.
And just like, oh, why even have him in the fight? You're just gonna die.
Exactly.
And then the last person there, besides like Niwa, who I guess is there now.
Yeah.
For some unexplained reason.
That was a crazy reveal.
is Chozo. And Chozo dying actually, I guess, could make sense with Yuji being there. However, Chozo dying would completely invalidate the meaning behind Yuki's death, where she wants him to live as a human being. So I wouldn't put it past Gege to kill Chozo, but I would personally feel very against the idea of killing Chozo.
Yeah, that's the thing, is with all the characters present, we've had somebody die for them to move forward. So killing these characters would be a crazy move. Like Miwa, Mekamaru died to put her forward. Nanami is Ino's motivation. Yuji has Nanami as well, as long as Nobara and Megumi and everyone else who's gotten fucked over in Yuji's life. Maki had Mai, and yeah, Choso had Yuki. Everyone has had someone die to push the people forward. So to kill any of these characters is kind of crazy. But then you also have the thing where if Fuga just misses, then kind of a shitty cliffhanger.
Evan, what do you think will end up happening?
This Fuga, I think it has to get interrupted somehow, because if it hits and doesn't kill anyone, that's the worst probably possible outcome, is it hitting and doing nothing, because then that's like nice cliffhanger, the move did nothing. If it kills one of these people, that's also bad. I don't think any of these people should die. So I think him getting interrupted before popping it by a Hakari, by a Miguel, by literally anyone else in the area could Yuta returning to stop it. These are all potential options. So I think that someone is going to have to stop the Fuga before it gets casted to make this make the most narrative sense possible.
I think it may cause heavy damage and take out like Chozo, and maybe Maki, but probably just Chozo and Ino out of the fight. Because, as we'll talk about later, I think the final fight will include both Yuji and Maki. So this may just be a way to take out the stragglers who are still around.
Yeah, but that's the thing about this move, is this feels like a move. Like, if Sukuna's been holding this back, like, I actually just reread the Gojo versus Sukuna chapters, and there's a part where Yuta goes to step in, and Kusakabe goes, no, stop. Maybe Sukuna has this crazy move that he hasn't unleashed yet. And that could have been talking about Maharaga, but it also could be talking about Fuga. And if Fuga is a move that gets unleashed here and doesn't kill anyone, like, I understand it taking Choso and Miwa and Ino out of action, but if this move lands on Miwa and doesn't kill her, then, like, yikes, you know?
Well, even Uraume was like, against Hakari, like, oh, Sukuna hasn't gone serious now. And I think Fuga is like the mark of him being like, okay, time to cook now. These people are getting annoying.
Yeah. Where do you think this fight's going?
Well, I think a lot of it can be determined by our next topic of discussion, which is Yuji's second soul swap. Now, for those who don't know, it was recently revealed that Yuji, with the it's not of Wee was able to kind of swap his soul with two people and learn their abilities or get some kind of back power up from it. And the first person he did this for was
Kusakabe.
And from that he got Simple Domain, which is helping him now in Sukuna's current second weird domain thing. Yeah, the Change Shrine. And
yeah, we've been hinted at.
The hanging thread is who is the second soul swap.
Exactly. Who do you think this second soul swap is going to be?
I can tell you who I think it isn't. Obviously, it can't be like anyone like Megumin over all those people who just aren't around anymore. Of course, there's Kusakabe. I don't think it'll be Wee or Mei. Nothing that they can really give him. Same with like Ino. Same with like Chozo. They even highlighted Chozo is not a really good spot for him. So it would have to be, I think, someone like a Maki or a Yuta. Now Maki, there's nothing really he can get from her, especially because he has like 2 curse techniques to this point. So having the restriction isn't really possible for him, nor would I add that much to his arsenal. I think the 2 most likely options are Yuta and GOJO. The problem is, I don't see what he gains from either of them that would really help him in this fight. Copy could maybe assist him if he got the abilities Yuta's already copied, as well as maybe copies of curse techniques he's run into, like L Transfiguration. But I don't think that's how it would work. So I'm not sure what he get from Yuta besides maybe like a summon like Rika, but then also feel like kind of an asshole. So my second idea was maybe he swapped with GOJO and got something from him. But the 6 eyes aren't something that can be passed down that way. And Limitless and everything involved with it is kind of useless without the 6 eyes. So that's another situation where I'm not really sure what he could have gained from there. But I don't know who else could be besides those 2, truthfully.
It kind of has to be Yuta or GOJO at this point. No one else really has anything else to offer unless we get some crazy pull. But then again, what can Yuta and GOJO...
You get Hakari's luck or some shit like that.
Yeah, what can Yuta and GOJO offer Yuji besides a domain expansion? I don't know.
It is possible that he could have maybe swapped with Angel and gotten that super effective...
Technique extinguishment.
And how... Yeah, exactly, and how she's kind of the perfect counter to Sukuna.
That would be
So it's
pretty
possible
useful.
that he's done that, but we've already seen him hit with the Jacob's Ladder, so to intentionally hide something like this, just for it to be another thing we've already seen, would feel a little weird to me. So I'm not too confident about that, but it is another possibility.
It feels like Simple Domain was really the only useful ability Yuji had left to learn, and he got it with Kusakabe. So this second soul swap feels like it's going to be something big, but not quite sure who it could be. Unless it was Choso, and that's how he got blood manipulation, but that is probably not the case. I think he just probably learned it. and inherited it.
If I recall, it's just like highlighted that Chozo isn't really a good swap for Yuji
Yeah, they
because
did
he
that
already
too.
has everything that Chozo could ever give him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure it's not Chozo.
Yeah, they explicitly say it's not Choso, so or explicitly hint that it wasn't Choso. It could still be Choso, I guess, but
We need to talk about one of the biggest elephants in the room, who's kind of gone under the radar, and that is KENJAKU, who I thought was going to be our secondary antagonist in this final arc, was apparently already dead by Yuta, which
yeah.
I still find so weird. KENJAKU to me feels like a whole slew of wasted opportunities if he truly is dead from Yuta and Takuma's hands. Because KENJAKU is this character who we know so little about. He feels a very surface level, where it's like, oh, my motivation is I'm just kind of bored. And I want to see if this is funny or entertaining. It feels like there's got to be more there, and that he should be doing more in this fight, especially with how strong he is. I do get the logic behind Takaba being his final opponent if this really is the final time we see him. Takaba being someone meant to entertain and make your life more interesting, and that being KENJAKU who's lived for so long. I get it, I truly do. But for this to be our primary antagonist, the entire manga, to be responsible for so many events, Yuji's birth, Sukuna knowing how to transfer his essence from his fingers and other people, for all of these machinations to be of his doing, and for him to be taken out in this way, not even like a proper full fight since Yuki and Chozo, it's kind of anticlimactic to me.
Yeah, it really felt like Kenjaku had a bigger role to play, and he was the secondary antagonist the whole time, but it seems that that's gone to Uraume, who's been fighting Hakari for fucking months. Months. We have not cut back to this fight since, like, early 2024, maybe even 2023. I don't know what's going on with Hakari Uraume. I don't know why we haven't cut to it. This is another thing where the pacing of Shinjuku Showdown becomes an issue because we've had this fight that we know has been happening this entire time, and we have not cut to it in so long, and it feels like we're in a stage in the Sukuna fight where if we cut to Hakari versus Uraume, it's kind of killing the pacing of that fight, but also we have to see Hakari versus Uraume at some point because I would assume that Hakari is going to make his way to Sukuna at some point, so we need to get Hakari out of that fight, unless this is really just Hakari's entire purpose for the arc, which would, and then again, that's kind of crazy too. So this Hakari versus Uraume debacle is a whole nother can of worms that needs to be opened. What do you think about the whole Hakari versus Uraume fight?
I think at this point, Hakari and Uraume are both characters that are kind of being very mishandled at the moment, and it isn't just this fight. If Uraume really is our semi-finale, our second to last fight, which I assume it is, it would be very weird to just like cut to Hakari joining the group and not showing the fight and Uraume losing. So we have to show the fight. If that is the case, Uraume is this character we know nothing about, not what motivates them, not what they can do. Do they even have a domain expansion? Who the fuck knows? Because we haven't seen them do anything all series long. And then Hakari, who was introduced in the Clone Games and had such a strong start, especially with his battle with Kashimo, but hasn't really been given depth or anything since then. It feels like these two were destined for more, but we're at a point where we can't really cut to them without ruining this final fight, but also to just tack them on at the end would feel inadequate as well. So I truly don't know what's going to happen here. You have to assume Hakari has to win the fight, but it's been so long and no progress has been made, and he isn't really the type of character that can really get a power boost or anything that would like influence his fight to give him a sudden edge, to where I just don't know what they're cooking here. I truly do not know what Gege is planning with these two, especially when we've only cut to them like I think twice since the battle started, and it seems like no progress has been made on either side. They're just keeping each other busy this whole time.
I don't know, like, another thing about this fight is it would have been actually a perfect pacing to have this fight, like, in the center of the Sukuna cycle, because the Sukuna cycle got exhausting, so for us to cut to another fight like Hakari versus Uraume, it would have been pretty refreshing. And now it feels like we're really deep in, probably, like, I feel like Sukuna only has, like, 2 to 3 fights left in him, and we still haven't gotten a conclusion or really anything with Hakari versus Uraume. And if Hakari is going to show up against Sukuna, then we have to cut back to that fight, but then that feels like it's going to kill pacing with the Sukuna fights of the world. And then if this is like just the secondary antagonist fight, Hakari beats Uraume and doesn't do anything against Sukuna, that also feels like a pretty gross mishandling of the character that everyone loves so much. So really interesting to see how they're going to deal with Hakari versus Uraume. It feels like we should have cut back to it when, like, before Kusakabe or Miguel showed up, but now it feels like we're in too deep. So interesting to see how Gege wraps that one up.
And I know we've been complaining a lot in this episode and been talking about problems with the arc and the pacing and the potential misusage of characters. But this is all because we love this show and this manga and we love these characters and we want to see this ending done right. Perhaps after it's all over, this might seem a bit more cohesive.
Exactly.
With the finished puzzle all in place. But weekly to weekly, or week to week, it's getting a little hard to see where this is all leading. Personally, my prediction has always been GOJO's generation versus Sukuna. Yuji, Maki, Yuta, and Hakari all fighting Sukuna at the same time, leading to a final fight with Yuji and Megumi having an internal battle with Sukuna, or something of that variety. But with every chapter that passes, that seems like less of a possibility to where, are we really just going to have Yuji versus Sukuna? And Yuji somehow pulls out a win? That seems a bit too simple for Gege.
Yeah, the big thing about Jujutsu Kaisen is there have been parts of the story that have felt like plot holes, even dating back to Shibuya and pre-Shibuya, but then chapters would come and explain them, and it would all make a lot of sense. So it seems like we might be shitting on Shinjuku Showdown right now, but in a year from now, it might be one of the most cohesive arcs out there, and all these problems have been fixed, but these are just the concerns that we have at the moment. And I agree with Lucas. I feel like this has been leading up to the GOJO's 4 strongest students as prodigies versus Sukuna, that then leads into Yuji versus Sukuna to save Megumi, or he saves Megumi and it's Megumi and Yuji versus Sukuna. Yeah, like Lucas said, the chapters go by and it seems less likely when we still have people like Shiesty and Choso around, and even Miwa just came in on this fucking chapter and simple domained for Maki, which was insane. It seems like we still have a lot more to go, but it also feels like we should be wrapping it up soon, so the pacing has been pretty strange.
Now, when discussing the ending, as we've been doing for the past few minutes, there is one question I think above all that has to be asked. I think we can all agree that Megumi probably has to live. There'd be no point in having Toll try to save Megumi if it wasn't going to be successful. But will Yuji Itadori live or die? I think that is the real question we have to ask ourselves when transitioning into this final bout. What do you think, Evan?
So it's always been pretty clear to me that Megumi has to live, especially after everything that has happened to him. He has lost everything. He lost his sister, he's lost his parents, obviously, that were deadbeats to him, and his freaking pseudo-dad Gojo got murdered by the freaking soul that he's inhabiting in Sukuna. So everything has gone wrong for Megumi. It feels like at this point him dying would just be the just meanest conclusion to a character possible. I feel like this has to be leading up to Yuji saving him. But the real question, does Yuji live or die? I really don't know. From the start, from episode 1, it's pretty clear how fucked Yuji is after swallowing that Sukuna finger. He's scheduled for execution, and it was his goal to just save as many people as he can. He is a wanted man, he's gonna die at some point, but can he save as many people as he can? And obviously him saving Megumi, and that being the final person he can save, would be pretty poetic, as Megumi is the person that saved Yuji and brought him into this whole mess all the way back in episode 1, chapter 1, whatever. But then also, Yuji breaking the cycle and saving Megumi and living would be another fitting conclusion to his character. So this is pretty great from Gege in the sense that no matter if Yuji lives or dies, he can still have a pretty solid conclusion to his character, and I think that no matter what happens to Yuji, his conclusion will be handled pretty nicely. I have faith in Gege in that.
I think it all depends on the type of story that Gege wants to tell, and what the final message of Jujutsu Kaisen really is. Because Yuji Itadori has been at our center for so long, even when it hasn't even felt like he's been at the center. This has always been about him and Megumi, and about Yuji wanting to do the absolute most amount of good with his life as he's been able to within the time that he's been allowed. But there's also been a lot of thematic coverage in JJK about cycles and how the world isn't fair. How someone like Nanami will die despite being such a good person, meanwhile Mei is living out the dreams Nanami had for being selfish and, quite frankly, one of the worst people in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But Yuji has always, in my opinion, stood as the antithesis to this. Despite viewing himself as a cog, he has remained sort of outside of the cycle, outside of the Jujutsu kind of mindset, where strength is based off individuality, and you have to cast aside your heart and your humanity. But Yuji has maintained strength through his compassion for people. I think Yuji dying, in a way, could kind of have a more negative view of things, although you could potentially spin it in a positive way if you were to, maybe if Gege wants to say, do as much as you can in your life with as little time as you're allowed.
Mm-hmm.
But that also might make all of these people who have died for Yuji, that might feel a bit unsatisfying for the audience. But Gege doesn't give a shit, and that's totally a possibility. Or maybe fucking Sukuna wins, who knows?
Yeah, maybe everyone dies.
That's why I'm obsessed with this.
But yeah, that's basically been our thoughts on Shinjuku Showdown so far. We're excited to see what happens. We might be getting leaks as soon as tomorrow that completely shatter everything we're saying or prove us right. We never know. But just know that we'll be here at the end of the show, and we'll probably have another discussion video about how it all wrapped up. But as of this point, it's dicey. It could be good, it could be bad. Really, everything's out on the table here. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Even if it does end bad, I'm excited to see how that could even happen. So
if we immediately get proven wrong tomorrow, please don't come in the comments and roast us. It's not our fault. Gege isn't predictable. We all know this. That's what he's known for. But yeah, both of us really love this show. I actually introduced him to it, and he and I watched most of season 2, most of Shibuya together. I watched him scream at Rika's death.
Rico, yeah. That was rough.
Nearly cried fucking Nanami's death. It was a whole ride. We love this show, despite all of its flaws. Despite this being a pretty somewhat standard shonen, this ending is still so unpredictable, and he's circumvented so many tropes in unique ways.
Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you can like, comment, and subscribe down below. And What If Episode 3 will be out on Monday. And as always, everyone, have a wonderful day.